Stop. Don't go anywhere too fast. It's time to listen to a Head Over the Footy podcast.
Hello everyone, we got a new setup here in the Head Over the Footy studio, and as you can see to my right we got some special guests. If you're listening, thanks for putting us in your ears. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for putting your eyeballs on the screen of a Head Over the Footy episode. And let's get into it, but before we do, welcome Charlie Gill. How you going?
Good, thank you, Max. It was a tough weekend.
Oh, it was. Luca, Giusti, welcome back, mate. How are you?
Thank you, Max.
Yep.
Another week, another potty. Coming off a great weekend it was.
Absolutely. Well, Charlie, you touched on that loss just right there. You're a Carlton supporter, and it was a tough weekend. That'll be one of the things that we speak about, and we'll go into some controversy just before the game last week between Carlton and Collingwood. Obviously, we released a video at Head Over the Footy about what you thought about that game and who you think would be the better team.
His comments have been unstuck now.
Yeah, well, that's right.
He's been called out, the big man.
Yeah.
They haven't.
Well, we'll address it later. There's a bit to go through there, but basically,
We'll
Charlie.
let him stew on it.
Yeah, well, Charlie, you basically said that regardless of the result, Carlton would be a better team.
Well,
yeah. But anyway, we'll get to that later because we'll talk about a number of things. Bulldogs lost to Hawthorn, which was a shock result. Everyone thought the Dogs would beat the Hawks there, who are a young side. Swans beat GWS. D's beat Cats. Cats were undefeated, obviously, before that game, and they copped their first loss, courtesy of a Goal of the Year contender from Bailey Fritsch. Ross Lyon press conference, we'll get into that. Richmond, I don't know about this game, but I'm looking forward to hearing about it, Charlie, because you know all about these free kicks that were handed out, don't you?
I think the situation with Richmond and their free kick count over the past couple of years is just a big story waiting to happen, and it's such an exciting one because it's so suggestive of corruption, which is very interesting. But I also want to mention what you said before with the Ross Lyon press conference that you had. I just want to tell listeners right now that when we get into that conversation, it's going to be great because the press conference that we're referring to, it was just Ross Lyon and Max Hatzoglou, just the two of them in there. And it was quite an entertaining conversation.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you what, I'll tell you one thing, just to tease you about that whole situation. I was nervous before the interview, obviously. When I found out I'd be the only journo asking him questions, that was a little bit nerve-wracking. But I got over those nerves quite quickly.
Good opportunity.
Yeah, it was a good opportunity.
Just a one-on-one with Ross.
Yeah.
People would pay big money for that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go, Gus. You're right. Anyway, we'll talk about that, but let's...
Like you are for my time.
Hey?
Like you are for me on this pod.
Absolutely.
This is complete charity.
You're
for me, at least.
Don't worry. We'll be getting big bucks soon, boys. Anyway, tips. We'll talk about our tips. Questions from the crowd. There's been a few questions come in. That'll just about do the show. So let's get into it. As we do every week, the top story from the round. And this week, it's the Western Bulldogs and Luke Beveridge's side going down to the Hawks, 91-98. And it was 14-7-91 Bulldogs to 14-14-98. So they had 7 more scoring shots, the Hawks, and
I think
they've beaten the Bulldogs, Luca, and pressure on Luke Beveridge and the Bulldogs, you must say now, isn't it?
Yes. Charlie, am I allowed to speak?
You are. Go for it, mate. What do you think, Luca?
Well, Kane Corn says that they have a top 4 side in terms of talent in the AFL. But I think if you look into it, their bottom 5 or 6 players really aren't getting games at different clubs. It's their youth and their sort of top of their talent in their list is exceptional, elite talent. They've got some big names, so I think it might be a bit harsh on Bevo because he is dealing with a lot of the last 6 players on his list aren't getting games at other clubs. Whereas, you got players like Jamara and he's got a stacked forward line, stacked midfield, but those flanks, those pockets aren't really being filled by strong role players, and that's what you need in a good side. But I guess there's no underestimation that he is really struggling and that something needs to change. I think he's been at the Dogs for a long time now. He has led them to a lot of success in the 2021 grand final, 2016 grand final win. Did he make another grand final and lost?
Well, the Bulldogs won. That was in 2021.
Yeah, mate. The shot clock just ran out. You've been rambling for 40 seconds now.
Well, Luca, you rambled, but you didn't really ramble because you're calling for him to be sacked. Is that what you're saying?
That's a fucking headline hunter.
Is that true?
It is, but you know
That's
what?
It's a
headline
mischievous.
hunter.
That's a little mischievous, Hatzo. To quote Ross Lyon at the press conference on the weekend.
Yes. Well, people are saying Beveridge should go.
I'm a Beveridge defender, I think.
You've been a Beveridge defender for a while. So have I. But
sometimes you need a freshness in the club.
I know, but they've obviously got Bontempelli and a lot of great players, and his methods are somewhat unique, like leaving McRae on the bench and stuff. But their list isn't like incredible. Their backline's not very good.
Well, yeah,
Jones is a top 4 centre-half back in
Nah,
the league.
not anymore.
No, not right
Once
now.
upon a time he was.
But he was, yeah.
And it was magnificent and glorious when he was, like, because it was such a great story. But he's not anymore.
But look, I've heard the Bulldogs as well that they don't have a top 4 list. I've heard, people say that they're around the, top 8 lists in the comp. But my question is, and I was covering the North St Kilda game for the Herald Sun on Saturday, and I was in the press box, and there were some big names sitting around me, names that you'd see on TV.
Drop them.
I won't be dropping any names because I overheard some conversations.
Oh.
So, but I heard a really good point made, and it was what Sam Draper said on the podcast about Beveridge, and I think he said that some players will leave the club if he's still coaching next season, and the person that I overheard said, people are having a go at Draper for, making these comments. But what if they're actually true? Like, he could be it could be true what he's saying, and it's right. Why hasn't anyone investigated Why hasn't anyone investigated whether it's actually true what he said?
Maybe
Draper?
that's Bailey Smith.
Well, maybe it is. Maybe it's whoever.
Well, the reason why it was such a big deal, and I think that the Bulldogs were so upset about it, was because when a player says it, clearly there's some truth behind it. Like where there's smoke, there's fire, is what you'd say if a journalist was bringing something like this up. But when a player brings it up and the amount of information they're privy to, that's crazy. That's a bonfire of controversy because he's right. I'm sure he's right.
Well, what I will say is, apparently, it was the 200 Plus podcast at Clubby Sport,
which is a great podcast, by the way. It's my favourite AFL podcast aside from this one. Yeah, Nick Butler, the journo, and that I really like him.
Yeah, he's from Channel 10.
He's very funny. Yeah, and Draper and Charlie Comben, the North Melbourne back.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to tune in now, Charlie.
I've never actually listened to it. I just watched the clips, but it's funny.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
That's what you classify as consuming podcasts these days. But what Draper said, apparently he was just intimidating a journalist. Is that what you read as well?
Imitating, not intimidating.
Sorry, imitating.
Intimidating a journalist is what Ross Lyon did to you on the weekend.
We'll get into that later.
And imitating a journalist is what you were doing with some of those ridiculous questions. No, I'm kidding. I think they were great questions, but we'll get into that later.
Well, is that what you made of? That's what I read from what Draper was saying. He was just imitating a journalist.
Yeah, I think
so. So there's actually no truth behind what he said, or is there?
But why would he say that if it exists.
Imitating a journalist.
There was some kind of context that we obviously don't know because we weren't listening to it, but I did listen to the clip, and whether he was imitating someone or not, I reckon there was definitely some truth to what he said because, look at the situation. It seems like Beveridge just lost the players, and as much as I've been a defender of him, and I think he's a great coach, he took them to a premiership and he took them to a grand final in 2021.
One of the most fairy tale grand final wins.
Yeah, he's
ever.
Obviously a good coach.
Absolutely,
and he obviously is a real leader of men, which can come across in different ways.
I think that their time frame to win another one with Bont and Libba is the next 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And so then either need to double down and stay with him and either take the risk that he'll bring them to another one or just cut their losses now.
Yeah.
And start building again because, they're not going to be around for another 5 years.
Yeah, but I think doubling down is what they did in the off-season because they restructure their football department or something.
Yep.
Which seems like a fine call to me, because if you bring a new coach in, then you've got so much more work to do.
Yeah.
Like if you want to make the most of the list you've got now, instead of like having 2 years.
Yeah, but maybe they've tried that. They tried restructuring whatever they did, and it didn't work.
Maybe.
It's not working.
Well, it's not working.
Who knows?
Because they just lost to Hawthorn on the weekend, and they lost to West Coast.
I think it is some coaching issues as well. Like, he doesn't want to play. He's got 3 star forwards. 4. Sorry. He's got Lobb, Norton,
Well,
Hagen.
Love's not a star, but yeah.
Yeah, and Darcy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's sort of not making a decision on all of them. He's like, we'll play you all forward. He needs to, do something there.
Yeah,
So that is a direct outcome of a coaching decision,
Yeah.
My fear about Beveridge and the situation at Bulldogs is we're reading so many articles, and I wasn't a fan of these articles because they weren't very transparent. It's like journos writing articles saying that Beveridge should be gone, but there's not a whole lot of evidence behind it. It's just pressures mounting on Beveridge, but it's like pressures mounting on Beveridge because they've lost.
Yeah.
But that pressure can be mounting on the captain or the vice captain or the key forward.
Yeah.
But they choose to say Beveridge because it's his team.
Yeah,
but
but
that could be anyone,
they're
right?
losing because
But this is my point about all this, right? Where there's smoke, as we said before, where there's smoke, there's fire.
It's fire.
And there's backstories behind this. There's things going on behind the scenes, potentially. I don't know if there are or are not, but from the amount of times I've read Beveridge is under pressure, this and this and this about Luke Beveridge, who did coach the club to a remarkable premiership in 2016. But unfortunately, sometimes relationships might not last long and it might not be a workable situation. So just from reading this and reading so many stories saying Beveridge is under pressure, like Mark Robinson opinion pieces or another opinion piece, where there's smoke, there's fire, there's stuff going on. But I don't know if that's true or not. But just from the amount that I've read, it tells me that there's stuff going on and it's not working.
Every time someone...
It's also no fault of their own that they got Jamara in one of those... what do you call it? When he was in their area. So
academy.
They got him in an academy pick. And then they got Darcy in a father-son. 200 plus key forwards.
Well, that's the question. I heard someone say, why isn't Norton playing half back?
Yeah.
Like you got those...
Oh, I don't know about that. Norton's such a good forward.
But it's fair to say there's no coach right now in the AFL that is under less pressure than Beveridge.
You mean
Beveridge is under the
more
most...
pressure?
Under more pressure than Beveridge. So, yes.
Yeah. And it's like every time someone says it is under pressure, it stokes the fire. So it's always like, it's just kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You just have to say it and it becomes the truth. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting with Voss say last year about whether the players were blamed or the coaching was blamed. And like, yeah, I don't know. I think the responsibility really at the end fell on the players, from the club's perspective at least. And they sort of sorted that out themselves, while externally his coaching was what was criticised. But I reckon probably it's the players a lot of the time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think...
But you could say that's the coach's fault, so...
Yeah.
If the players aren't playing for him.
Well, the players also need to play for
There's
this.
so many factors. There's the players, attitude, there's talent, then there's coaching, then there's, fixtures.
There's just vibe. It's just vibe. And the vibe's not so good there, it seems, at the moment.
Pinpointing it is the hardest thing, though.
Well, it is. And, at the moment, it just feels like Bulldog supporters don't really know what's going on. Like, they don't know what's going on inside the four walls, whether the players like him or not.
I think it's the potential. West Coast supporters are happy to lose because they know they're building for something great, whereas Bulldogs supporters know that they could be good, but they're not, and they don't know why.
That's right. Well, they take on Richmond next, which they should win this week. And then they got GWS, and then they got Sydney, then they've got Collingwood.
Yeah.
And then they've got Brisbane at home. So after Richmond, it could be 3 straight losses, and it'll be 5 losses in 6 games if they lose to the Giants, Sydney and Collingwood after playing Richmond this week. So we'll see. We'll see. We could be talking about, who knows, in a few weeks' time if we're discussing the Bulldogs. Anyway, let's move on now. Charlie, now you want to get into some Richmond stuff because there was a little bit of controversy. Now, I didn't watch this game. It was Richmond taking on Fremantle at the MCG. Laura Kane, I did watch her video that came out today on afl.com.au and she defended one of the holding the ball decisions, which was a Liam Baker tackle. And she said that the guy actually got rid of the he released the handball and the handball got blocked. Now, do you know which one I'm talking about?
No, I didn't watch the game.
Anyway, park that aside. Oh, you didn't watch the game?
I didn't watch the game, so I didn't witness the game. But what I have witnessed is a lot of furor from Richmond supporters that you just can't put down to general nuffiness. And they do have some nuffy supporters, that's for sure. But Richmond supporters are getting increasingly angry at the way the umpires are treating their players. And, you know, at the one level, I love to see that. I love to see Richmond supporters get angry, you know, as a Carlton supporter. But when you look at the stats, as was pointed out by Mark Robinson and Rowan Connolly, it's pretty amazing. They're like down like, I'll get it up, but it's like minus 300 and something free kicks over the past like 5 years. Hold on one sec.
So you're saying that they've had a lot of free kicks, right?
No, the opposite. Over the past 5 years, Richmond's differential between free kicks for and free kicks against is minus 332. The next worst side is Hawthorn on minus 108. Now,
so say that again. What were those figures? 108
minus
for
332 for Richmond, and the next worst is minus 108 for Hawthorn. Now, when you just think about that, it's pretty bad. Like,
yeah,
and
but
but wait, because you can just consider that, and you can say Richmond are undisciplined. But there's been some very diligent Richmond supporters on the internet who have tracked the averages of teams' free kicks that they give away, and then see how that compares to how many they give away when they play Richmond. And overwhelmingly, when opposition teams play Richmond, they miraculously give away less free kicks than their average. So the Richmond supporters are saying, how come this happens every week? And what's the explanation for that? It's actually quite hard to justify. And what I want to see is some kind of analysis to see if there's any truth behind the claim, because if you can't prove that Richmond are actually a less disciplined side than other teams by a long way, if you can't prove that, then how do you make sense of this?
Well, free kick counts really annoy me, because just because a side has had 10 free kicks to 30, like, doesn't mean the side that only had 10 free kicks were hard done by. All
right, but think about this. Over the past 5 years, Richmond's list has changed a fair bit. They've also got a new coach, and yet they seem to still have this problem with free kicks. And I agree, like, sometimes when people point to the free kick count, I think...
What did you say off air? You made a huge call.
Which one?
Started with corruption.
I think I made that on air.
You did at the start.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
Yeah.
I just I don't understand that.
What I said, I didn't call it corruption. I said that...
Are you saying the AFL is corrupt?
I'm not saying the AFL is corrupt. Actually, hold on. I am saying the AFL is corrupt. The AFL has been proven to be corrupt a lot of times.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one that's suggesting this about this free kick, and I just think it's absolutely ridiculous that people, and I really
the AFL is corrupt.
No, they're not. Take that back right now. Look at the camera again and say I take it back.
We don't want any bad PR.
We don't want to get sued for defamation.
The AFL do a great job, and just
don't be an AFL mouthpiece.
While we're on that topic, they're scrapping the warning for next season. Laura Kane has pretty much announced that they're going to scrap that 666 warning and pay a free kick.
All right, yeah.
So great move from Laura Kane and the AFL.
Right. All I want to say is I'm just trying to flag this thing, because if it's a subject that no one wants to talk about, because if you somehow give in to the idea that Richmond get less free kicks than other teams consistently, the question becomes why, and that's a very sensitive question, because it lends itself to the idea that there is corruption or that there is bias against Richmond. And I'm not saying there is, but I just want to see some sort of analysis that looks at Richmond games and sees if they actually are being undisciplined, or if there perhaps is something
we would have already have seen the analysis, but there hasn't been the analysis into it because it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
If it was such a big thing, Richmond copping all these non-free kicks and getting hard done by the umpires, there'd be an uproar about it already, but there isn't. So people going on about free kicks.
I'm creating the uproar.
You are, but exactly, and that's fine. But you're creating it based off stats. Now there's more to stats, and there'd already have been a big uproar. I didn't even know this stat. I don't think many people have known about.
You're about to hear it. Like it's an issue.
It's not an issue though, because if it was an issue, it would have already been spoken about. It's only become an issue just because of the stat.
Yeah, but the stat is very revealing.
Every week we talk about umpiring decisions. Every week we talk about teams getting hard done by the umpires. And if Richmond continually got brought up, then we'd all be discussing it now.
That's what's happening now, though. That's what I'm saying. Like Mark Robertson mentioned in his article, Rowan Connolly brought attention to it. I'm bringing attention to it as a media power player. But are they just mentioning the free kick differential? Or are they mentioning that they're actually being hard done by? Because Richmond, you know what? They're just giving away free kicks. Rowan Connolly said...
They're just giving away too many free kicks, and they are undisciplined.
But, okay, well, that's such... Prove that. You can't prove that.
Well, I'm proving it by telling you now that over the past 3 to 4 years, since this stat has been relevant, it's not like I've heard a narrative about Richmond being hard done by.
Yeah, because it's such a sensitive topic that it would take a lot of evidence to even get close to sort of pursuing it as a possibility. And I think maybe we're nearing that. When you're minus 300 and something free kicks over the past 5 years, and the next worst team is in the hundreds, and then they consistently get less, the opposition consistently get less free kicks paid against, no matter what their averages are. The common denominator in all of it is that when umpires see red and black, they
yellow and black.
Yellow and black.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think of like a good sort of phrase involving when bulls see red and when umpires see yellow and black, but I completely fucked it up. Trying to be too clever. Anyway, I just think the stats speak for themselves, and soon they're going to scream for themselves.
Yeah.
And they're going to say that there's something going on, and it's interesting. So but Richmond fans, from this Carlton supporter, I'm riding with you.
It's interesting. It's an interesting one. It requires deep investigation.
That's what I'm saying. Let's investigate it.
Yeah. But it's a week-to-week proposition, and if it commonly get brought up, Richmond... But I don't know. It requires a bit of investigation. So thanks for bringing it up. And that's quite remarkable. Over the last how many years?
5.
5 years?
Yeah.
Minus 300 for them.
You know who should do the investigation? Richmond.
Well, that's
Come
right.
back to us with stats.
Well, they probably have, but they wouldn't do it publicly.
That's a good point.
They wouldn't do it publicly.
Richmond fans are calling on their on the Richmond hierarchy to sort of bring it up with AFL, and maybe they have, not publicly. Because why would they? It's such a sensitive topic. All
right. Well, guess what?
But surely they're asking the question.
Richmond fans,
we need Nath.
I'll do an investigation.
We need Nath.
No. He's biased though. I'll do an investigation into the free kick differential stats over the last 5 years. If this podcast gets 1,000 likes, done.
Oh.
What do you mean, like follows or like this?
How should we do it? It'll have to be on this YouTube video. How many does it need? 1,000 likes. Yeah. Good luck with that, Richard supporters. Okay.
I'm with you.
Yeah. All right, let's move on now. That one's an interesting one, but let's talk about the next thing now, and that is the Pies defeating the Blues. And Charlie, what did you make
of... You're gearing up. You've just put the hand on the mic ready to go.
What did you make of the criticism you were copping in the comments?
Well, I feel like I should address the camera for this one.
You should.
Because I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the people who got out their pitchforks for me. All the Collingwood supporters. And you know what? I deserved it.
You know, I was around and about the MCG, a few pubs in Richmond on the weekend, and there were a lot of people disagreeing with you.
Well, look, I'm just doing my best.
About it.
You know, I'm being the sacrificial lamb for this podcast, you know. Someone needs to put themselves out there for criticism so that we can get all that negative reaction, because unfortunately that's what media is about these days.
Clickbait.
Charlie,
I'm walking clickbait.
I also had some good feedback come your way from,
there you go.
from some very qualified people.
Oh, well, there you go. But all I'll say is,
Mine
yes,
definitely weren't qualified.
it was a double blow for me because not only did Collingwood beat Carlton, but Nick Dacos kicked a magnificent winning goal, and I have suggested that he has no aura. And
That's an embarrassment. I'm
and
sorry.
clearly he's got some aura, but I still stand by what I said regarding Harley Reid, which was considered a massive call by you at the time, and maybe it is that I think Harley Reid is going to definitely end up considered the better player, and in not too long. But yeah, look, in terms of what I said regarding Collingwood and Carlton as teams, my whole point was that it didn't matter what the result was. I still think Carlton is the better side, and nothing I saw in the weekend really. I mean, obviously Collingwood played better than us, but that was our worst performance for the year, and it was you don't have more outs at all. Carlton's backline is completely depleted.
Yeah.
It was our worst performance for the year, and yeah, I tipped Collingwood though. Like that's
Well, I'm spewing.
So there
How
you go.
can you ever tip against your own team?
Well, I did. I had Collingwood all week, and then 5 hours before the game, I changed it to Carlton.
But Charlie, your
Yeah.
argument was if Collingwood win, Carlton is still better. My
Yeah.
argument is you were better. That was the test to see who is the better team. We won it. Therefore, now we're the better team until you beat us again.
But that's not how it works. If that was your metric for deciding which teams are better than the entire power rankings, if you
Yeah,
want to
but
call it that, would
maybe
be
so. But there's
topsy-turvy.
only 2, 3, maybe 4 teams at that echelon of the ladder where it's going to actually matter in finals time.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're going to see, aren't we? We'll see who's right. And I tipped Collingwood to finish first at the start of the year, but I didn't think that. I thought that they just had a massive premiership hangover.
You disregarded what Max and I were saying is that we've had a slow start. We're just about to hit our straps, and then we'll start to win a lot of games towards the back end of the season.
And you might, but what?
You didn't even want to listen to it.
Well, boys.
Well, no, I'm happy to hear that, but you're just talking about Collingwood. You're not talking about Carlton. You also have to say why you think Carlton aren't as good. It's not just a case of if Collingwood might be a lot better than they've seen so far, but Carlton might be as well.
No,
because we performed okay,
It's
but we
hard
haven't
for me.
performed
Actually,
amazingly.
I love Carlton because I love Charlie Curnow.
Well, the question is now: are Collingwood a top 4 flag contender?
Is that according to the betting odds?
No, are they a top 4 flag contender?
Oh, right,
according
you're
to the
asking.
question.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And you don't. It might not be right now, but I just have a lot of faith that we will build.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that because if you've won the premiership in the past year, you've proven that you can do it.
Well, yeah, and after beating Carlton, who are a formidable opposition, well, now they're 5-3, and it's a good win for Collingwood because Carlton were in a good situation.
Max, as you said off air, AFL changes very quickly.
Oh, it does. And you look at Geelong, like they're playing Port this week, and they could lose that, and it'll be 2 losses in a row.
Who are
and
Collingwood playing for the next 4 weeks?
Well, Collingwood has got West Coast this week. So there you go.
I would have preferred us to back it up with a Melbourne or a Geelong straight after.
Well, Carlton are playing Melbourne, and that's going to be a big test. But I mean,
it's a huge game.
Our outs are quite significant. We don't really have a proper back line. And when we get those players back in, I expect us to be better than we have. That being said, it was our worst performance for the year against Collingwood.
Like the other thing is Bailey, Fridge, and the D's. So a bit of a segue there.
Okay, there you go.
But Melbourne's another team that's dominating, and
You can put a lot of money on him to kick 2 a game. Just a little head over the footy multi for you.
There you go. Well,
Love the game, not the odds.
yeah, good response.
That has to be the new segment.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get a sponsor for it. Then we might.
I want to do a
consider.
segment where we bring on people whose lives have been ruined by gambling and interview them about how it's affected their families.
Exactly.
Jesus Christ,
Well-
where did that come from?
Well, Charlie.
I take that back.
No. Well, we saw the coaches speak about domestic violence this week, and I thought it was a great thing that the AFL did and all the coaches.
Was that a sort of on-the-spot decision by the AFL?
Well, it sort of
It
was.
wasn't fixtured in.
It happened pretty quickly, yeah.
Yeah.
It was just they were just reading the room, I guess, of the country.
Absolutely, and the 2 main causes of domestic violence I've heard is mental health, and the other one is drug use. So,
which we don't.
we talk
contain.
about gambling, right? Gambling, there's links to mental health issues with gambling and gambling issues. So,
So we're not going to have
it's a bit of a.
Sorry,
we're not going to have
it's a bit of a consideration.
That's
we're not going to have a multi-segment.
If we're
Then.
gonna have a,
that was.
there are
Yeah.
I know podcasts out there like The Great Cricketer, which don't take any sponsors from gambling organisations.
Yeah.
So it's a question I have to ask myself and
It's
answer.
well done to them that they got into a position where they were able to do that.
Absolutely,
but I mean, I didn't mean to make this some big conversation about gambling and everything.
Worth
but
mentioning though, in terms of the domestic violence stuff.
I will say that on a personal level, I think that when I have conversations about football with my friends, too often the conversation becomes one about what the odds are in multis and so forth.
That's a great thing, but sadly, the trajectory and the most common thing now is people talking about the odds.
Yeah,
which is, and where we see it's so obvious the amount of gambling it's increasing by the minute.
And they're a metric of like just before I asked if Collingwood top 4 for premiership was the odds, because it's good to know if like people think that.
Did you just catch? You just caught yourself out. You said you don't talk about gambling odds, but then you just brought it up.
You're right. Yeah. Well, that's how insidious it is. It's just infiltrated my mind.
Exactly. But let's move on, and we'll talk about Ross Lyon, Charlie.
Yes.
Now, you've got a few thoughts on this.
Well,
you wanted to bring it up, so I've wanted to bring it up now.
I did, because I didn't realise what had happened, but I did not realise that our man Max Hatzoglou here had found himself trapped in the lion's den with the lion roaring down at him. And
absolutely.
And the gate firmly locked, because you were stuck in that room, just you and Ross.
That was poetic.
And
Mate.
And it was just you two. And as Luca said before, I mean, people would kill for that opportunity.
Yeah.
But and Ross is so funny with his press conferences, you know, with the "You're quite brilliant, Shane" incident, and sort of he's got other funny quotes. So I mean, I'm just glad you lived to tell the tale, and yeah, let's talk about it, because John Ralph linked on his Twitter to the press conference, at which Hatzer spoke about as much as Ross Lyon did, because it's just a two-way conversation. And he described you as a keen young interrogator.
Yeah.
And he referenced Ross Lyon's face at the end when you asked about finals, because he did give you a funny face. And he described you as mischievous when... What did you do? What were you asking about with the head knock?
Well, Darcy Wilson was the player. He went down and copped a big knock from George Wardlaw, the North Melbourne midfielder.
Yeah.
And Darcy Wilson was on the ground for about 20 seconds. The doc got to him, and he eventually got to his feet, ran towards the boundary, ran about 50 metres to get to the boundary. He's about 2 metres away, and the runner goes, no, go back on.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell? Like, he was on the ground for 20 seconds after a big knock. No, looking closely on replay, there wasn't actually a head knock, but it was a big hit. And he almost got off, and then the runner strangely came on and said, go back on. And then Nathan Buckley in commentary was saying he was trying to avoid a HIA test potentially, because if you go into one of them, that takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
well, it was good journalism from you, because you were just running off what Nathan Buckley, who's a respected commentator, said, wanted to see if it was true.
I saw that clip. I saw that clip today. I didn't even realise it was you asking the question.
Yeah.
It was great insight.
Yeah, it was.
Because his knock on him for when he got drafted was that he was soft.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what they thought. And
oh, really?
He was a soft. He didn't get the inside ball, and Ross Lyon wanted to prove to the competition that he wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. But I mean, yeah, Ross Lyon, said that you were being mischievous and were putting 1 and 1 together to make $1 million. But I think that's, I think you got to ask the question. So well done.
Yeah.
You're moving up in the world, Max.
I will say that at the end,
mate.
If you watch the press conference, it's pretty funny, because at the end they're about to leave out, and then you just throw out a haymaker at the end, which I must say had absolutely zero relevance.
What was it?
He just said, it's like while Ross was gathering his things, he just went, North and Saints sure to play finals in a couple of years, yeah. And then Ross looked at him like, what?
Yeah. I think I went, poked his buttons there a little bit
too hard. You went too far.
Yeah, but no, I my question was, I didn't really frame it the best way possible, but it was, do you think that you could be playing North Melbourne in a final in a few years' time? insinuating that
yeah.
St Kilda are already a finals team,
Yeah.
and saying that North will be rising up to that point because
Yeah.
North only lost by 35
Why
points.
do North Melbourne have such a knock on them? Like, I rate their young group. they've got obviously a great
Clarkson.
coach.
Well, they are
I don't
staring
know.
down the
Don't
barrel
think so.
of a 5th straight season in the bottom 2.
I don't think Clarkson.
They're young core. They've got a great full forward. They've got great draftees that have come into the league.
Yeah. They haven't made finals since 2016.
Can I
So
just
they're
say?
under the pump. And there's been threats for North Melbourne to be shifted out of Arden Street to the Gold Coast in 2007. That got rejected. Then
Eddie
there's
Maguire
been other
suggested.
calls as well.
Yeah, that club presidents. I think Maguire suggested that club presidents are saying that
They don't
if
want a
an
19
extra team
team.
is going to come in, one has to go out, which seems crazy. Like maybe that is what has to happen, but it seems like
Well, yeah.
awful.
That could have happened to Carlton. Like, they were shit for that, man.
Nah, but Carlton, it would never happen to Carlton because
Oh.
Carlton's such a big club.
There's some old Carlton supporters looking at you now, Luca.
No, but
God's
I know,
happy.
but like they will eventually come back around and be good again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
well,
even
that's
if
right.
they do, they still. It's kind of like
It's money at the end of the day. They
Yeah.
probably don't bring enough money into the door.
yeah.
Well, they've cleared their debt, North Melbourne, which is a good thing. But anyway,
It's. While we're on the Ross Lyon press, the last thing I'll say is what I also liked was that you asked about the fact that Webster was playing that game because at the time when Webster did that on Simpkin, people were saying, "Oh, the comeback game is going to be against North, and that's going to be quite interesting." And you were the only person I saw who asked about that. So
well,
Yeah.
it was a big moment in the game because that's pretty much what the whole game was about in the end. And Webster got booed throughout the whole match, and his second kick of the game was a turnover, and North Melbourne scored and got their first lead of the game to go up by 4 points. And then
I'm glad you watched it because not many people did.
I know. Then North Melbourne kicked another goal. They got out to a 12-point lead midway through the first quarter. And then St Kilda kicked 6 goals in a row, and it was game over from then on.
Just quick mention, I went to the Geelong Melbourne game and then walked into the pub and I finished off watching the Essendon West Coast game, which was a cracker.
Well, West Coast almost won.
I know.
yeah,
And, Essendon are another
I
club.
was sitting next to a Essendon supporter who was pretty proud of his team's efforts. I'm going, mate, you've only just beat
Essendon
West
should have
Coast.
lost on expected score as well
Will
from what I
Deathridge.
saw. Like West Coast should have won. But one question I forgot to ask was, how was your? I mean, did you have a one-on-one press conference with Clarko as well?
Nah, at that point, John from The Age joined me. So he was joining me in that presser.
Had some backup.
But I enjoyed Clarko. He's very emotional in a way.
Yeah, okay.
And people say he's an emotional coach. But I enjoyed speaking to him, and I've interviewed him.
These are the insights that Head Over Footy gets.
If you had to guess, because it's going to come at some point, which coach do you think is going to give you your Tom Morris moment?
Oh, I don't know. That one's tough. It depends on. It all depends on the game. What happens during the game?
I reckon it's going to be like the nicest coach in the league is just going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll throw you
Well,
off.
who is
Yeah.
the nicest coach in the league? Justin
Craig.
Justin
Yeah.
Longmuir is
Craig.
pretty nice.
Nah.
Craig McRae's pretty nice.
I don't know. Justin Longmuir, I would say. Yeah.
Matthew Nicks is nice.
No.
He is. Yeah, he's nice.
I've heard he can give a spray, though. Don't you worry about that.
Well, you can give a spray, but he's nice. Well, I don't know about that side of him, but he's pretty good most of the time, I think.
I think you're going to be the one to.
I was about to mention Beveridge.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, nah.
You know who is the nicest? Bolton. Back in the day, I reckon he was a really nice guy.
Brendan.
Yeah.
He's got a bit of McRae about him.
I was nervous though. Just last thing about Ross's presser, I was nervous because the week before against Port, I watched that presser live, and I counted how many questions he asked the journos and how many questions the journos asked him, and it was 9-9.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's like a two-way conversation.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm gonna ask him a question. He's gonna throw me a question straight back.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, geez, but anyway,
Yeah,
it
that's
all went okay. So that was good in the end. But Luca, good point bringing up Essendon there because they almost lost to West Coast, and they're another team, just like Bulldogs, who are on rocky ground at the moment because you lose into West Coast, you lose into teams like Hawthorn. Obviously, Essendon won that game, but they're under pressure there.
They don't scream good to watch or excitement or...
I don't know.
You know, whereas when you watch a Collingwood Carlton or a or a Carlton Melbourne or something like those big clubs, Melbourne clubs.
Well, Essendon's a bigger club than Melbourne by a long way.
Yeah, but it's like I don't
know. I'm a kind of an Essendon
carve out a
fan.
time slot in the weekend to watch the game.
I'm kind of an Essendon fan this
I don't mind
year.
watching Essendon.
I think his name's Max Lawton or something from Fox Footy.
Yes.
And he brought light to the fact that based on expected score, which is not a metric that I can say I understand how it's calculated, but based off it, and I'm sure it does have some worth, Essendon have lost like most of their games. They keep on just winning them somehow, which I think on the one level you could say points to fraudulence and the fact that they're getting lucky, but more likely it's that they just keep winning somehow, and there's some part of their culture or, their system that is winning games that they shouldn't be, and that's going to hold them in good stead. And maybe that's what the Essendon edge is.
Well, if they can keep beating good teams, that's great. But they also need to make sure they can get.
I reckon they'll make finals.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Where are they at now? They're fifth. They're fifth. So
Collingwood and Essendon will both make finals, and I hope Carlton does. But I tipped us to finish 9th at the start of the year.
There you go. We'll see what happens.
We should.
Va bene, tutto a posto.
Tutto a posto.
We will see what happens.
E possiamo parlare in italiano adesso?
Go, play it.
They know how to play the game. By side they stick together.
Stick together to uphold the Magpies' name. And that was your punishment, Charlie Gill, for Collingwood beating Carlton and your comments. You had to learn the theme song. Well done. You did well.
Did it by ear.
In 5
did
minutes.
Yeah, I know. He literally learned that in the last 3 seconds.
Charlie is
3
a
minutes.
multifaceted, talented man.
How do you do that? Just quickly, because we don't have much time. But tell us how you do that.
If you had as many guitar lessons as me when you were little, you'd be able to do that as well.
Okay.
I didn't have that many. It's not very hard.
Okay, interesting. That's still very impressive. Anyway, let's move on now, boys, and we're going to talk about tipping. I had a stinker, and my tipping is depressing. It's killing me.
Where are you in head over footy tipping?
I'm always in tears about my tipping.
7th. I'm working my way up.
I'm 6th, I think. Ooh.
You're 7th and you're 6th.
Yeah.
And I'm 49th.
I had a good round. There you go.
Tipping is killing me. It's killing me. It's just a nightmare. Last week, how are you supposed to know that? Well, I was going to say, how are you supposed to know that Sydney we're going to beat GWS?
Well, they were favourites, right?
Well,
I tipped GWS, unfortunately.
How are you supposed to know that Geelong we're going to lose to Melbourne?
Because, that's also another one where it's like, they had to lose at some point.
Well, they were all 50-50 games. Even the Collingwood-Carlton game. The
I
only
was-
one that everyone would have gotten wrong is the Bulldogs-Hawthorn one. And the ones that people could have gotten wrong, I got wrong. And you guys probably got
I was
right.
pretty happy that I tipped Collingwood and the Crows.
Yeah, that's what I did as well.
Yeah.
But then I should have tipped Sydney.
Well, I
Yeah,
tipped the
me
Crows. Genius. I tipped the Crows. My week was off to an absolute blunder and just went absolutely downhill. But anyway, let's talk about the Mort's Meats tips of the week. Shout out to Mort's Meats. Thanks
What
for
up?
sponsoring us.
Shout
And
out.
while we're talking about our sponsors, if you want to sponsor, head over the Footy.
Here we go
Here
again.
we go. Let's give ourselves a plug. Feel free to reach out because I need to.
You know what I'm thinking?
I haven't reached out to people for sponsorships.
A
But I
banh mi
should.
shop.
I need to start
Oh.
reaching out. I need to start
Yeah.
reaching out.
I'd
to
love
people.
a banh mi sponsor because we all love banh mi's.
The best banh mi joint I've ever been to is on Vic Street. I reckon I've gone 50 times since first going 6 months ago.
That's got something to do with your new girlfriend.
It does, but we're talking about banh mi's. And it's so good. It's $8.
Shout out, Susie.
It's called Phuoc Hung.
I don't know about new as well. It's about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months.
We're all
old.
still yet to meet her.
Oh, better. So bad luck, Luca. Anyway,
He's gone silent.
Why, you done?
yeah, I know this guy bringing in personal stuff. Anyway, let's talk about the tipster of the round, and that is no one actually tipped better than 7 this week. The best tipster got 7.
Who was?
And
Dun,
that
dun, dun, dun.
was Commando Ando. Well
All the
done.
way from Paris.
I noticed that.
He's in Paris.
He's all the way in Paris.
Well done.
Shout out Ando.
Commando Ando. If anyone knows him, which we all do.
We'll be sending him $10, which converts to about €6, and he can go buy himself a nice croissant.
There you go. Well, you'll have to message us on the Head Over the Footy page to claim that prize. So just do that, Will Anderson.
And do it in English, please.
Yeah, he can do it in French.
Or Italian. He speaks many languages.
Yeah, but the question is what you can understand, not what he can speak.
Yeah, well, I'll send it to you if it's in French.
Okay.
So will I
cool.
know if it's in what language?
we
Yeah, I
wish
don't know.
him the best over there.
Yeah, we do. And well done for winning the prize. And the leader of the tipping competition is, No, it's Connor Kay.
Oh, no.
All the way from, where is he? He's in America right now.
He's somewhere in the middle of America.
He's on 52.
He's somewhere in the middle of a sorority house.
Yeah.
He's an outright
I
leader
don't wanna know.
in the Head Over the Footy tipping competition. So well done to him. He would be desperate to win this prize. I'm sure about that. So well done to Connor.
I can foresee him missing out by one tip.
Yeah. Well, if that happens, he will be devastated.
Yeah.
Anyway, Luca, questions from the crowd, mate. You're going to run us through them.
Let me get him up.
You've taken over the segment. What have you got?
We've
'Cause we've got a few cracking questions. Can you start with Harry Spazzatos?
Spuddles, great man. All right, here's Harry Spazzato. Realistic thoughts on what is happening in the Western Bulldogs coaches box. Well, we've gone over that already.
We have. But just going off his question, right? Realistic thoughts. So he obviously wants us to be serious. And we were serious at the start of the show.
Bevo's shaking in his chair in that coach's box. That's what's going on.
The reason why he's used the word realistic is probably because realistically, what do we actually think?
Yeah, I'm
he's
sure that's what he
probably-
means.
Well, it'd be...
Yeah, but he's probably saying he knows that, no one wants to call out someone and say they should lose their job.
It'd be
He
a
probably
huge
wants
call
to
if
get that out of us.
If it happened this week, it'd be huge.
It's a trap.
Yeah.
All right,
No.
It's a
Conky.
realistic thought.
Next
So
one.
thanks for your question, Harry. We spoke about that at the start of the show, so we won't go over it again. But really good question because that was the top story from the round, and you've hit the nail on the head.
Conky Kennedy in the middle of a sorority house. He has given us a question. Sydney's best team in the comp. Sydney is the best team in the comp, given Parker and Mills still out, only just got Rampy back. That's a fair call.
Such a good call from Connor, and
I don't think
reckon-
Sydney are the best team in the comp.
I think they're top.
They're close.
They're going to finish in the top 4, and they could. If you finish in the top 4, they'll have a home final starting off, so they'll win that, which takes them through to a.
Touching back to their
I think they're a very hot chance this season.
They're signing a lot of the boys up as well for the long term.
Yep,
They're
Florent.
building for the future.
Yep.
Florent just signed.
Rowbottom, I think, as well.
Yet to get a signing out
I'll
of Will
take-
Hayward though.
I'd take Geelong and probably GWS above Sydney at the moment still.
And Hayward kicked 4 goals.
Well, that's going to jack his price up.
He is hedging his bets here big time.
How long has Wicks signed for?
He's going back to his local club, mate. Man. I know what he did as well. I don't know if I should release it, but
Oh, you touched on it last week.
We can't be sued for defamation.
We won't go back
I
there.
know definitively what he did.
All right, well, people can message Luca privately for that
Oh, no,
information.
message the Head Over the
Or he
Footy
can
page.
sell the
We love all
information to,
traffic
I
coming
I can
through
be the
there.
one to leak it if you want me to, but I won't.
Well, no, we won't go down that path. We'll leave it in the hands of Sydney.
So this is a strong lead for you from Bonnie Louise 44. What are the Suns doing wrong, and what should the list look like come next week?
Well, massive shout out to Bonnie first off, because she's always asking questions about the Suns, and I really respect that because
Big
people
Suns
tend to
fan.
forget about them. And
Yep.
all I can say is that I reckon they're lucky at the moment that people tend to forget about them because they haven't been performing well at all.
You summed that up quite well.
And yeah, I mean, I guess it's just sort of a case of you've got Damien Hardwick there and you just let him do his thing and see what happens. I'm confident that they'll eventually get it right just because he's obviously a good coach and he's still in it. Like, he's not like Clarko, who I feel like probably just doesn't have the fire within him anymore from what I can see. And I reckon Hardwick's probably got something to prove as well in his own way.
Well,
So I don't know. Suns, it's more like just wait and it's going to work. It's not a situation with like it is with the North where it's like, oh my God, how are we ever going to get out of this?
Yeah.
Suns, I reckon it's just, I know you've been waiting a long time, but just wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, the pressure's on them. They take on... Wow. Well, we're going to get to our preview in our next show, as we always do. But we'll touch on... They're playing North Melbourne next week, so that'll be a massive game.
If they don't win that, it's...
Yeah.
And next question from the big brother, Charlie, Sam Gill.
Sammy Gill, yes.
Great man he is.
He's on for a debut soon.
He is. He's coming on.
He's been pushing hard for selection.
Oh, he's been pushing me to pick him.
He's in the 2s at the moment.
I'm keen to pick him.
Thanks, Skip. Like you didn't pick me in Year 12 cricket, mate, after I made 90 and took 3 wickets.
Okay.
It wasn't my decision, mate.
Hang your hat on that, mate. Still didn't pick me.
He clearly hasn't let it go yet.
What else can I do, mate?
Because you didn't make
100. Still talking about it.
Oh my God. His question was, is slamming Sam Demolition Durham the second coming of Fife?
Sam Durham. I'll say he does look good with the shoulder strapping. I love players with shoulder strapping. It always looks good.
Random thing to say.
Well, I mean, I'm saying that because I'm not quite familiar with his game.
Yeah.
I'm only familiar with his image.
Yeah, he's a bad man out on the town, though.
Well, you keep on making these references to players' personal lives, and I feel like it's going to land Hatzer in, a lawsuit sooner rather than later.
That's why I'm here.
I'm staying out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luca, next one.
That's it.
Yeah. Thanks for the questions. It was good. But I think that is a wrap-up of the show. Thanks for coming on, boys. Another round done. A good round. Plenty happened. And yeah, there you go.
Thanks for having me, Maxie. Another great week on the pod.
Pleasure, Luca. And Charlie, thanks for coming on, mate.
Thanks, Max Hatzoglou. Hats off to you.
He loves that finish. Just remember to follow us on YouTube and Spotify, and we'll see you for the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.